That's terrible framing. Hey everybody, Adam Savage here in my cave. Walrus, yes. You walrus hurt the one you love. Hi everybody, Adam Savage in my cave, and I want to talk about bones and skeletons today, briefly, in a show and tell. I get a lot of questions about my collection, about my prop replica collection. Anyway, a frequent question is, what is the weirdest replica you have ever made? What is the weirdest thing you have ever replicated? And I must admit, I am not a huge fan of the Excelsior questions, the biggest, the best, the stinkiest. However, in this regard, I definitely have a real weird one. But before I get to it, I want to talk about, so I love bones and skeletons and skulls. My pool table light was a T-Rex head, a full-size casting that I have of Sue's head, the T-Rex dug up in the Badlands that I think now lives at the Field Museum, if I'm correct. Anyway, I've got a copy of Sue here in my cave. It's one of my favorite objects in the shop. But my fascination with skulls and skeletons began in grade school, living in Westchester County, New York, and traveling through the woods around the Pecanico River and the Sleepy Hollow Cemetery and the Rockefeller property over there. I came across lots of animal skeletons in the woods and collected some of the skulls. And then I feel like I went pro with my love of skulls and skeletons because of a birthday gift. I was living in New York in I lived in Manhattan and Brooklyn from 1985 to 1990. And my girlfriend, Tara, in 1989, bought me a birthday present that she had picked up at the Chelsea flea market, and it is this beautiful skull. I believe this is a bear. I hope it is okay for me to own this. Just occurred to me, somebody might call me and tell me I've got to turn this in, which if that's the case, well, I guess that's fine. But this was my very first, real amazing skull. And I frankly thought it was amazing that Tara could see me clearly enough in our early 20s to know how much that I would completely lose my mind over something this beautiful. You know, there's an aspect to a skull that is like peeking behind the curtain of nature and seeing its internal structures. And I love nothing more than peeking behind the curtain of everything. It's why I loved making Mythbusters. It's why I love getting the route through the kitchens of the casinos to get to the appearance. Like any chance I get to see the internal structure of stuff, I get excited. So yes, also there was a nightclub in New York. I don't know that I've talked about this publicly. There was a nightclub in New York called MK. It existed for a while. You can see MK in the movie King of New York with Lawrence Fishburne and Christopher Walken. There's a shootout in a multi-level restaurant, and that's MK. It was a nightclub that was a former bank. It was right on just above 23rd Street on Broadway in New York City. And they had this top floor room. I wasn't a big nightclubber per se, even though, first of all, their coat check room was in the vault. So literally you just had this, little coat check girl behind a little desk, but behind her was this 8-foot diameter steel door opening with the door open there and all the mechanics visible behind glass, just like incredible. But that wasn't the best part of MK. The best part of MK was their top floor gold pool table in a room lined with lit cabinets filled with animal bones. That was also part of my origin story in the love of bones, is this type of this English naturalist study that this pool table happened in. And at that point in my development, I was very good at playing pool and billiards, and I spent a lot of time in that top floor room at MK playing pool seriously in a room full of nightclubbers. I had some of my best games in there, and I had some real triumphs and also some real failures, but I never fell out of love with that feeling of being in a room full of lit cabinets lit with great things. As you can see in the cave, I have replicated that, 35 years later. My Billy bookcases are all a nod to that pool room at MK. Speaking of getting to peek behind the curtain, I have also been lucky enough in my life to get several behind the scenes tours of different museums. I've gotten to tour the basement of the Museum of Natural History in London, where they've got a 10-meter long giant squid in a 10-meter long tank of formaldehyde or alcohol down there. It's an astonishing object. And a bunch of years ago, I got a multi-hour tour through all of the back rooms and hallways, or actually, I can't say all, through many, many, many of the back rooms and hallways of the Museum of Natural History in New York, it is the Museum of Natural History that I grew up with. I went on field trips to see the blue whale when I was no years old from Tarrytown. It was just a quick bus trip into the city. And so we did field trips to the M&H all the time. But to get a tour through all these back rooms and see like rooms full of elephant skulls donated by people over the years who think that they're important to the M&H, and the M&H has all of these elephant skulls, we don't know what to do with them. But as I was touring through, and they showed me some remarkable things, dinosaurs laying eggs, fossilized dinosaurs laying eggs, that was where I found out that there are more dinosaur bones in plaster in museums around the world than there are paleontology students to chip them out and document what the hell is there. There is so many bones in plaster sitting, waiting to be discovered. It was really thrilling. There's a way in which you go to a museum and you think, all of this is a sort of ivory tower and these people are figuring stuff out and we're benefiting from their knowledge. But when you go through the actual workspaces, it removes some of the mystery and it makes it much more beautiful to me that people do this and that they go to work every day. And sometimes they're cranky and sometimes they're not. And work is, sometimes great for everybody, sometimes terrible. All of that becomes a real experience rather than this sort of fantasy in your head of what academics are bringing you into these museum displays. And as I was touring through the back hallways of the M&H in New York, I came across a cabinet, and in the cabinet was a bone. And it was a bone like this one. And it was exactly this type of bone. This is a walrus baculum, or penis bone. I'm not here to comment on walruses or their body parts. Just that when I saw this, I was like, what is that? And I said, well, look closely. And it had written on it that it was a baculum used as a pointer by a teacher named William King Gregory. Now, William King Gregory was a zoologist, paleontologist, and primatologist who lived from the late 19th century all the way to 1970, and he used that whale baculum as a pointer while giving lectures. He was a contributor to the theory of evolution. He was a lifelong teacher. And I saw this and I thought, that is a person that knows how to get your attention. And that is a deeply teachery thing. And I love that. As someone who tries to get your attention, that resonates with me. And so I went on to a wonderful catalog called Bone Clones, and they make all sorts of educational replicas of bones and skulls of all sorts of different creatures, both present and extinct. And they had a walrus baculum, and I bought it, and it wasn't great. It wasn't great because it was actually about the same length as this, but much thicker. And that didn't match the original one that I had seen at the Museum of Natural History. But luckily, at a store around the corner here on Valencia, about 10 years ago, I managed to pick up the perfect walrus baculum for me. And once I had it, I grabbed a rapidograph, a very fine marking pen, and I replicated the text that was on the baculum at the Museum of Natural History. Here it says, I'll read it to you. Walrus baculum used as a pointer when giving lectures, William King Gregory. I took a close-up picture of this and replicated it. Without a doubt, this is the strangest prop replica I have ever replicated. Authorities, if there's some reason I shouldn't have this bear skull, I would be happy to send it to whatever governing body should receive it. Otherwise, it goes back in my cabinet and I'll tell the story again next time someone visits the cave. Thank you guys so much for joining me for this. What is the weirdest thing you've ever replicated? Yeah, tell me in the comments. Thank you guys for joining me. Adam Savage in my cave. I will see you next time.
Hey guys, Adam Savage from Tested here. If you've ever seen the 6-inch ruler in inches and centimeters on my forearm and wanted one of your own, but you didn't want it to be permanent, well, today's your lucky day. You can now buy temporary tattoos of my measuring stick, my measuring forearm, at tested-store.com. Comes like this, goes on in about 30 seconds with a little water. The instructions are on the back. It comes off with rubbing alcohol, and hopefully it warms you up to the idea of permanently attaching a measuring device to your body, because I use mine every single day.